first bill was Bill 1, which was Alberta sovereignty.
Saskatchewan and Alberta just dropped a nuclear announcement that could literally split Canada. British Columbia just made history by formally coordinating their separation strategy from the rest of Canada.
Indigenous leaders in Manitoba gathered on Friday to condemn Canada.
Well, folks, it's happened. The Western provinces just dropped a WEXIT bombshell so big it's echoing from Vancouver Island to the Manitoba border. And let me tell you, Ottawa is not having a good day. After months, no, years of simmering anger over pipelines, carbon taxes.
We're signing 2 memorandums of understanding that will see us advance pipelines and pathways.
And being treated like the ATM of Confederation, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and even parts of BC have gone and said the quiet part out loud. They're done waiting. They're done begging. They are now openly coordinating a push for separation. And this isn't the vague, half-hearted, maybe someday rhetoric you've heard before.
The separatist WEXIT party. He replaces Peter Downing, who recently resigned.
We're going to make Alberta great again, and that is when we cut ourselves off from the leech that is Eastern Canada.
This is a real, organized, clock-ticking plan. And what they confirmed today, exactly what Ottawa's been fearing all along. The West isn't just mad, the West is serious. It happened in Calgary, of all places, at a joint press conference that looked less like a political event and more like the start of a sports championship. Flags everywhere, packed room, loud applause.
It does look as if Canada is about to change forever. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and even parts of British Columbia just dropped an earth-shattering WEXIT.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith steps up to the mic, flanked by Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe and a handful of BC MLAs from northern ridings. She lays it out plain. We are initiating the legal and logistical framework for a referendum on Western independence, not just in Alberta, but in cooperation with Saskatchewan and in consultation with like-minded regions across Western Canada. Cue the gasps, the scrambling reporters, the stunned live tweets. And then she says the part that made Ottawa's stomach drop, we're building this together, and we're not asking for permission. This isn't in a few years or maybe after the next election. The Western Independence Alliance, and yes, that's the official name now, has already penciled in late 2026 as the target for simultaneous referendums. That gives them just under 2 years to run the biggest political ground game the West has ever seen. They've got lawyers drafting referendum questions. They've got economists building case studies on post-Confederation trade. They've got volunteer networks forming in rural towns and big cities alike. This isn't an idea, it's an operation. Ottawa's been pretending the West's frustration is just noise from a vocal minority. But here are the numbers they're ignoring. Alberta, 38% now support outright independence. Among conservatives, 62%. Saskatchewan, 34% overall, 58% among conservative voters. Northern BC, no official polls, but local town halls are standing room only when independence is discussed. 1. Economic drain, billions sucked out of the West through equalization. 2nd, pipeline blockades, federal red tape killing infrastructure projects that could transform local economies.
We kind of feel a little left out.
And what would it take to make you feel
Put back
part
in?
of the community? Yeah.
You know, again, get that pipeline going.
3rd, cultural divide, a growing sense that the West's values, industries, and way of life are alien to the political elite in Ottawa. The we all feared this moment. What everyone suspected but hoped wasn't true is now reality. The West isn't going to keep fighting Ottawa one province at a time. They're joining forces. That changes everything. One province threatening to leave, Ottawa can stall, smear, or ignore. But multiple provinces moving in sync with a unified message and legal team, that's a constitutional nightmare for the federal government. It's the exact domino scenario federal strategists have whispered about behind closed doors.
And it's not just Alberta, it's not just Sask. Parts of BC are expressing interest, along with Manitoba. So this is what's known as WEXIT, literally a Western exit from the Confederation.
If Alberta jumps, Saskatchewan follows. If Saskatchewan goes, northern BC starts making moves. And once multiple provinces walk out together, good luck convincing the others that staying in a weakened confederation is worth it. The Prime Minister's office went into immediate damage control. Within hours, a spokesperson was on CBC warning that this would plunge the country into economic uncertainty and weaken our global standing. Those same warnings were used against Alberta's Sovereignty Act, against Saskatchewan's autonomy bills, and against BC's resource fights. And every time Ottawa trots out the fear lines, the numbers for independence tick up. Why? Because it reinforces the West's core belief. Ottawa doesn't listen, it lectures. You know, the new strategy, unfiltered and everywhere. The Western Independence Alliance is skipping the national press filters and going straight to the people. Live stream town halls, viral TikToks breaking down equalization payments, Facebook groups organizing door-knocking campaigns in small towns. They've learned from Quebec's sovereignty playbook, but they've modernized it. They're not waiting for CBC to give them 3 minutes of airtime after the weather. They own their own channels. And the slogan they unveiled today, short, sharp, and aimed right at the gut, our future, our West. We've heard separation talk before, but usually it's been reactive. A protest against a pipeline decision, a carbon tax, or some Ottawa overreach. This time, it's proactive, it's long-term, and it's coordinated. The West isn't waiting for Ottawa to hand them the perfect outrage moment. They're building the infrastructure now so they can pull the trigger whenever the timing is right.
Now, the Premier says the province will hold public consultations on nuclear power and whether it should be added to Alberta's energy mix. The province is currently reliant on natural gas for electricity, but the Premier says nuclear power could be good for oil sands projects.
And if you're wondering whether Ottawa can stop this before it gets off the ground, here's the truth. The only way to stop a movement like this is to address the grievances at its core. But Ottawa's track record shows they'd rather downplay, delay, and dismiss. And that's exactly the fuel separatists thrive on. The West knows it. Ottawa knows it. And after today's announcement, the rest of Canada knows it too. If you thought WEXIT was just a handful of Facebook groups and a couple of fiery speeches in small town halls, you're about to see how far off that picture really is. What the Western provinces have quietly built over the last 18 months is nothing short of a political war machine. And now they've rolled it right into the middle of Ottawa's front yard. This isn't 2019 WEXIT. That was passion without planning, energy without structure. Today's WEXIT, it's organized, funded, and laser-focused. And the most important part, it's multi-provincial. Let's start here. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and northern BC aren't just swapping phone calls anymore. They've established a joint coordination hub in Calgary, staffed by political strategists, legal experts, and, this is key, communications professionals who know how to control a message in the age of TikTok and YouTube.
That being separation. We are well aware that there is a large and growing number of Albertans that have lost hope in Alberta having a free and prosperous future as a part of Canada. Many of these Albertans are organizing petitions to trigger a citizen-initiated referendum, as I mentioned earlier.
Think of it like a campaign headquarters for a federal election, except the campaign goal isn't to win Ottawa, it's to leave Ottawa, the polling game. You're not seeing all the numbers in the mainstream media because the Alliance is running its own private polling to fine-tune messaging. Albertans under 40, 44% support independence right now, no campaign yet. Saskatchewan's rural voters, 60% lean toward a yes vote if Alberta goes first. Northern BC resource towns, majority support when framed as economic self-determination instead of separation. They're not guessing where support is. They've mapped it street by street. Funding without the federal strings. One of Ottawa's favorite tools is to choke separatist movements by cutting off big donors through political pressure. This time, it's not going to work. The Alliance's funding network is a mix of local business owners in agriculture, oil, and mining industries. Crowdfunding campaigns pulling in 6 figures in days from grassroots supporters. Independent think tanks running the economic research, funded entirely outside federal grant systems. By decentralizing the money, they've made it impossible for Ottawa to pull the plug. The legal strike team. This is where Ottawa really needs to pay attention. The Alliance has retained constitutional lawyers who've been studying the Quebec playbook since the 1990s. They know every inch of the Clarity Act, every loophole in the Constitution, every precedent in international law. The legal plan has 3 layers. First, challenge Ottawa's authority to block a referendum. 2, run the referendum anyway, with questions already drafted and tested for clarity.
Make the decision if we move forward to a referendum, and I think there's a lot of objective tools we can use to gauge the support of Albertans. The What We Heard report that we're expecting from the panel, the submissions that we've seen.
Use a yes result as leverage to negotiate a formal exit under international recognition. And here's the part Ottawa dreads. Once multiple provinces hold simultaneous referendums and both pass, the legal and political pressure multiplies. The federal government would be facing the largest constitutional crisis since Confederation. So, the messaging war. Forget the days when separatists had to beg for TV airtime. The Alliance has its own media network now. Daily live streams on Facebook and Rumble. Podcast series featuring economists, former MPs, and community leaders. Targeted social clips, 60 seconds, simple graphics, sharp stats. And they've settled on a core narrative that cuts through Ottawa's fear tactics. It's not about leaving Canada, it's about building the West. That framing changes everything. It's no longer about anger or rebellion. It's about opportunity, prosperity, and control over their own destiny. Why Ottawa's counters won't land. When Ottawa tries the economic collapse line, the Alliance comes back with hard numbers. Alberta and Saskatchewan together produce more oil than some OPEC countries. Agriculture exports from the prairies feed entire international markets. BC's resource economy, outside the Lower Mainland, is deeply tied to U.S. trade routes. They've got charts, graphs, and expert interviews ready to roll before Ottawa even finishes its press conference. The trigger events list. The Alliance has a running list of scenarios that could move them from preparation to launch in weeks.
The new threshold is 177,000 signatures collected within 4 months. People who want to stay in Canada and those who want Alberta to leave have already started applying for petitions. The Alberta Prosperity Project, a nonprofit group promoting independence, plans to launch one under the new
a federal carbon tax hike, new resource extraction restrictions, Ottawa blocking or delaying a major pipeline project, a court ruling against provincial autonomy bills. Hit any of these, and they'll coordinate announcements in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC within 48 hours. Right now, the West's independence machine is idling, but it's fueled up, tuned, and waiting for the green light. And if you think this is just political theater, you're missing the part that should scare Ottawa the most. Every single thing they unveiled today is real, funded, and already in motion. The day after the West votes yes. Okay, picture this. It's referendum night, late 2026. The polls close, the results roll in. First Alberta, then Saskatchewan, then northern British Columbia's ridings. And it's not a squeaker. It's decisive. Across the West, voters have said yes. Yes to leaving, yes to building their own federation, yes to taking control of their own resources, their own borders, their own future. And in Ottawa, silence. The kind that's so heavy, you can almost hear the weight of the crisis pressing down on Parliament Hill.
The reality is that the people are coming to us. Again, we're Indigenous and non-Indigenous Western Canadians. We're hearing their concerns. And as more and more people, again, the hashtag has come out from our First Nations supporter, FNEXIT, for First Nations Exit, to recognize that this is the only possible way that First Nations get to have their country back.
In the first 24 hours, the Canadian dollar dives. Not a little blip. A full nosedive. Markets in Toronto and Vancouver open to chaos. Oil prices spike globally because nobody knows how the new Western Federation will handle exports. Investors pull projects until they see the new rules. And here's the shocker. Alberta and Saskatchewan's leaders are ready for it. They step out at a joint press conference and say, in no uncertain terms, we are open for business, energy, agriculture, manufacturing. We are not slowing down. The world can trust the West to deliver. Ottawa's nightmare becomes real. For years, federal strategists said the West could never leave because the economic mess would be too big to handle. But here's the thing, that economic mess is Ottawa's problem now. Without Alberta and Saskatchewan, equalization collapses. Billions vanish from Ottawa's budget overnight. Canada loses 65% of its oil production. Agriculture exports, wheat, canola, beef, drop like a rock. Negotiation battlefield on the table. Debt division. Ottawa wants the West to take their share. The West says, we've paid more than enough already. 2, federal assets, military bases, RCMP infrastructure, ports. 3, trade agreements. Keep Canada's deals or cut fresh ones with the US and Asia. 4, borders. Customs checkpoints between Manitoba and Saskatchewan, Alberta and BC's Lower Mainland. International shockwaves. The U.S. would be on the phone in 24 hours aiming for energy deals and joint infrastructure. Asia would line up LNG contracts. Ottawa would scramble to prove Canada's still relevant without its resource powerhouse. Life inside the New West. Federal carbon tax? Gone. Streamlined resource approvals? Immediate. New constitution in the works within months. The message, we are stable, we are open, we are richer than before. The domino effect. With the West gone, Manitoba's rural regions might follow. Quebec's separatists would see their argument strengthened. The rest of Canada would face an identity crisis overnight. The day after a successful referendum, Canada wakes up smaller, poorer, and politically unstable. The West wakes up independent, resource-rich, and with the eyes of the world watching. And maybe that's been the point all along. Not just to leave, but to prove they could.